Hello and welcome back to my channel, Thrifty Day. My name is Leah. I'm the creator behind Thrifty Day. Today's episode is going to be a very simple, completely no-sew junk journal tutorial. And when I say no-sew, I mean no sewing whatsoever. I'm showing you two journals here because I want you to see my daily planner overflow journal versus the completely no-sew journal that I'm going to make on the tutorial today. My strawberry shortcake journal is sewn. The floral one is not sewn. So just so you know, this is how I use these planner list overflow journals. I don't really have a name. This was for January and February, so I use them over the span of about 2 months. I do a list and brain dump every day. There is a planner, so there's a full monthly calendar for 2 months, and then I also put all my overflow personal ephemera into these journals. So this is my strawberry shortcake one. This will be for March and April. I made it completely on my lives over on Patreon. If you were interested, the information to join is down below. I did make that cute little charm for it too. And if you are listening closely, I will have a charm drop happening in my Etsy shop very soon. So here's a very quick little sneak peek. That is my March calendar. I love to decorate them. There's vintage wrapping paper in here, modern wrapping paper, book pages from the vintage strawberry shortcake book, and I will just fill these up with all of my goodies for the next 2 months. It's just sort of a place where everything goes, and I keep my monthly calendar completely updated, and it's been a really wonderful tool in organization for me so far. I've been doing it since January, and I absolutely love it. So as you can see, this one is sewn, or maybe you can't see. This one is sewn. I made this one, but I did want to make a version that was completely no-sew. So this one that I'm holding in my hands, I'm going to make today here as a tutorial, and it is completely no-sew. So I wanted to make one that looked very similar to mine that is sewn without being sewn. Wow, how many times can I say sew? Anyway, so this one is completely no-sew. Let's get into the tutorial. The first thing I'm going to show you is everything you will need to create this journal. So here is an overview of the supplies you'll need. You will need a composition book. You can get them pretty much anywhere. Fabric tack, duct tape, washi tape, a glue stick. I also use clear transparent Scotch tape, a stapler, some trim, and some pretty cardstock. I prefer the double-sided cardstock. You will also need some scissors or some sort of cutting apparatus. And you will also, this is completely optional, need some trim if you wanted to add trim to the pages at the end. And yes, if you are adding trim, that will be completely no-sew as well. So let's get started. This composition book, I believe, is from the Dollar Tree. As you can see, the pages are completely sewn into this composition book. So the first thing we're going to do is decorate the cover. So let's get a couple of really pretty pieces of cardstock and get them onto this cover. If you are wondering, I got this paper pad from Joann's. That is usually where I find my favorite paper pads, and I love that they're double-sided. You can get two of the same and make them matchy-matchy on the front and back. I'm not a matchy-matchy gal, so I'm actually going to use the bright floral on the front and then the other pattern that's more solid green floral pattern on the back. So I highly recommend using wax paper or parchment paper throughout the process of creating this journal, just so that glue doesn't get into your free pages throughout your journal. So I just slip it right in between the cover and the first page, and then I grab my fabric tack. I highly recommend fabric tack for this part of the journal making. You don't have to use fabric tack. In my experience, I find that it works the best as opposed to white glue or tacky glue or PVA glue. So you're going to want to apply that fabric tack all the way around the perimeter of the cover. And since we have that parchment paper under there, you can get real close to the edge because it's protecting the pages. So you don't need to worry about that. I really get it as close to the edge as possible. It even kind of goes onto the parchment paper. That's all okay. And my tip for using fabric tack and making sure you get every drop out of it, because that is expensive glue, is to always put the cap back on. I know that it's tempting to want to just let it sit there as you work because you're going to use it again in a few seconds. But honestly, putting that cap on and letting as little air as possible get in there is truly the way to be able to use every drop. And I use every single drop. So you're going to want to repeat that process on the back. It's very simple. So put that parchment paper down and put that piece of scrapbook paper right onto the back cover as well. You don't have to use cardstock for this step. You could also use book pages. You could use anything else that would cover the space. You could even use multiple pages and make it more patchworky. This could be a really creative sort of moment for you, or you could simplify it and just use cardstock like I am. I don't add anything in terms of like illustrations to the cover in this particular tutorial, but if you were interested to see how I add, vintage book pages or images or anything, let me know, because I can do like a part 2 of this as well. So once you have all of the glue completely covering that cover, you just put your cardstock down and you press firmly. I do press all the way around, almost till you can see like the indentions of the cover. I am not shy. I press firmly, and then I am actually going to set this aside and let it dry for about 20 minutes. I'll even put like a heavy book on top of it just to make sure that it gets really adhered to each side. And while we are waiting for that to dry just a few minutes, I grabbed some of these large books. These are vintage books. Many of them were in pretty rough shape. I get them at the Friends of the Library bookstore near me. I use this particular Strawberry Shortcake book on my own new personal journal that I showed you at the beginning of this video. This is Cabbage Patch Kids. And so some of these larger books, if you have them, these pages are really great to use in these types of journals. So pick a few of your favorites. I chose 4, a couple Care Bears, Cabbage Patch Kids, and Strawberry Shortcake. And then I'm also going to grab 3 or 4 additional pieces of cardstock. And what we are going to do once we have about 8 pieces of additional papers that will count as pages in our journal is we are going to need to trim them down so that we can add them into our journal. And it's so simple. If you are enjoying this tutorial, please be so kind as to like this video. That boosts my channel. It gives me a rush of happiness when I see it, and I would be eternally grateful. If you're new, be sure to say hi. I would love to connect with you. And just thank you for being here. So now what you see me doing is trimming down all of these pages and preserving as much of the image as possible. I'm trimming mine down to 9.5 inches tall and about 7.25 inches wide, because that is a good dimension for my particular composition book. I know most composition books are about the same, but still measure yours just in case, because I know that they're all made by different manufacturers and may be slightly different. So now that we've trimmed all our pages down, we can set those aside because we are going to finish off our cover. We're going to pull off that parchment paper. And as you can see, I'm so glad we put it down because it was sticking just a little bit. That's what happens when you get really close to the edge, which is great because that means our cover is on nice and tight. So now that they're dry, I'm going to trim off the excess and make sure you save all these big, beautiful pieces of cardstock to use in additional journals, even mini journals. You can use them for anything. I'm sure you all have big cardstock scrap bins like I do. We all have them as paper crafters and journalers. So just trim each of those 3 sides down as closely to the cover as possible. And once you do that with the front cover, you will also want to do it with the back cover. I'm really loving this style of journal. Like I said, I use mine as a list journal, a planner, and an overflow journal. I also do have a personal creative style junk journal that I use. And then I also have a mini composition book, upcycled little composition book junk journal that goes with me everywhere. I actually take it with me in my bag and I sort of work on it on the go. So all of those bigger pieces of cardstock, if you also wanted to make a little mini composition book, you could save those pieces and make sort of a matching mini one for yourself, which is what I did. Mine's about halfway done. I believe I do have a short posted here on YouTube where you can see a peek into mine. I love it. It's just so fun to take. I have it in a pencil pouch, and I have a bunch of like markers, and I even have a little stapler and a little pair of scissors I bring with me. It's just a really fun little journal to have. And if you wanted to make one of those journals, you can use the same tutorial, or you could even use a sewn tutorial to do it. So now that I have both of my covers completely cut, I am just going to round those corners. I'm going to continue to follow it. I'm just going to use my scissors. It's a really easy process. So once you have all of your corners rounded and everything is trimmed very nice, we're going to go ahead and move on to the next step, which will be securing our spine. Look at how nice this looks. I love that cardstock on the front. Again, that's from Joann's. So I'm going to bring out my crummy scissors. These orange ones are really old, and I'm going to do that because I don't want to get all of this very sticky adhesive onto my other scissors. So this is some duct tape. You can get it at any craft store. You can even find it at the Dollar Tree. And you're going to pull out a length that is a little bit longer than your composition book and give it one really quick snip of those scissors. And then you are going to lay it halfway onto the front cover and then halfway onto the back cover. Once you have it laid exactly where you want, then you're going to fold it over and press firmly, being careful not to pinch the ends. I find if you leave the ends not pinched together, they're much easy to trim. So now I'm going to take those same crummy scissors and I'm going to begin to trim them, just following the edge of the book. At this point, I do sort of fold it in so it doesn't stick to my scissors. And you just have to sort of lightly use those scissors and go right around and just cut around that edge. And it's easier than it looks, but let me show you again. It's a pretty simple process. And once you're doing it, you'll see, oh, okay, I just need to use my blade, kind of keep it flush with my journal and trim all the way around. Duct tape is really fun. They have so many pretty colors now at Michael's and Joann's and Walmart even. You can find lots of really pretty colors and even prints, so you can get very creative with duct tape. And there you go. Once you have your duct tape on the spine, you are getting very close to being complete with your cover. You may like it like this. This next step is very simple. I'm actually going to add some rickrack. You don't have to do this step. This isn't like necessary for the composition of the junk journal. For me, it's just completely aesthetic and I like the way it looks. So I had this scrap. It was like the perfect size. You need enough to go on the front and the back if you're going to do this. And once again, I put that parchment paper underneath to protect my pages. So we bring the fabric tack out again, and I'm getting very low on fabric tack. I have very little left, but like I said, I use every last drop. I mean, we all know how expensive this is. It is pricey. They do sell it at Walmart though, but even then it's still a little bit pricey. And so I'm just gonna keep putting my lid on there and make sure it's on nice and tight. And then once I have that glue down, I'm going to just lightly press down that rickrack. And then as it dries, I keep pressing a little bit more firm. Once you're done with the front, I would let it sit for a few minutes just to let it dry so it doesn't move around when you flip it over. And then you're gonna follow that exact same process with the back. It's actually funny, I never used rickrack on my journal covers, but something started me using it. I don't know, but I started using it with a journal collection several months ago, and I've never looked back. All of a sudden, I feel like I'm Miss Rickrack. I don't know. I just love it. I buy it in every color. I love it. I use it on everything, and I think it looks particularly adorable on this style of journal. So I will say it again, though. This isn't absolutely necessary. This is completely just to get a cute little kitschy look. You don't have to do this. You could just do the duct tape and move on to the next step. I let this sit for a few minutes so it's ready to go. I'm going to remove the parchment paper and then I'm going to get my scissors and just trim them, those little tails, because it was a little bit longer than the cover. I'm just going to trim those tails. And once I've completed this process on the front and then I'll do it on the back, our cover is done. And I love the way it looks. It's just super cute. Like I said, I'm not adding any other images in this video, but if you would like me to, comment below because I'm happy to show you how I do that. It's, again, very simple. And yeah, so let me know what you think. How cute. I'm loving the colors. I love, love, love that floral print on the front. I think it's so pretty and the back is perfect. And yeah, so this is our cover. We're all done. What do you think? Now that our cover is done, we are going to move on to adding the pages. So how are we going to do that if we are not going to sew? It's super simple. We are just going to add them with tape. Now you can use like a decorative washi tape, but I actually prefer when I add pages in this manner to just use transparent clear Scotch tape. I get it at the Dollar Tree. So put those book pages in the order that you want them in your book. Grab whatever tape you want, whether it's washi tape or clear Scotch tape. Like I said, I'm going to use the clear Scotch tape, and open up your journal and decide what pages you want to add and where. The most important thing to remember in this step is that your pages that you are adding in with tape need to be evenly distributed, meaning you want them nicely distributed throughout the journal. So if you are going to skip about 10 pages and add one, continue that process all the way to the end. I would recommend skipping anywhere from 10 to 16 pages and then adding an additional cardstock or book page. Then, as you can see, we put tape on one side of that cardstock. I put it into the center of the journal, and then I add a very large piece of additional Scotch tape to the other side, half on the cardstock and half onto the lined paper in the composition book journal. And that's it, folks. You have added a page and you can hardly tell. So now skip however many pages you want. I would skip them in pairs because the next step of this tutorial is we are going to glue pages together and add washi tape so that we have a little more stability in those lined pages as well. So however many pages you want to skip, do it in pairs and then repeat that process until all of your pages are added into the journal. And like I said, you can add anything from cardstock to additional book pages. They could be smaller book pages. They don't need to be large book pages like this. They can be postcard size. You could even use those large pieces of cardstock that you trimmed off of the cover. This is a really fun part. You can get really creative and you can add a lot of very interesting pages and papers or even whatever you have laying around your desk. I added in this page a little low, so I'm just trimming the bottom. Everything's an easy fix in junk journaling. So now I'm going to add that additional transparent Scotch tape to the back, and that page is in nice and secure. And even though my journals for my composition books are sewn, I still have many pages like this in those. I add additional pages because I just sometimes want to add things, especially when I receive postcards or get pretty pages or papers. I just add them in this manner. So now I'm just going to show you how I am continuing to add them in here, and I'm just sort of trying to gauge that all of the pages I'm adding are evenly distributed. So that's sort of what you see me now. I'm just sort of counting and making sure that all of the pages and papers are fitting nicely throughout the journal. I find that more and more in my creative process, I am using this clear transparent tape. I just think it's so great. I put it over pressed pennies. I put it over those little plastic bread clips that I save. I use it to add pages in. It's a very versatile tool, and I find myself reaching for it sometimes even more than washi tape lately. And I think it's because it's such a nice, strong hold. And I know that those pages and papers aren't going anywhere. I think that's it, because sometimes washi, we know, can be a little bit fickle. And I don't know, Scotch tape just holds. It doesn't, you know, that page is not going to go anywhere. It is in there nice and tight. So I continue that process until all of those papers and pages are added. And this is a look into what mine looks like when it was completely done. As you can see, they stick out a little bit because they have sharp corners. If that bothers you, you can use your corner rounder. I'm going to show you. It's very simple. Just use your corner rounder or even your scissors and round those pages. It doesn't bother me. This is the only one I'm going to round because once we do our next step, you actually won't really be able to tell. So let me show you and let's get started onto the next part of this tutorial. The next part is gluing 2 pages together and adding washi tape. The reason I am doing that, and I think I've seen this on many, many tutorials here on YouTube. The first one I ever watched for a composition book journal was by Rebecca Hoot. She is here on YouTube. She is also on Instagram. I will be sure to link both of her accounts down in the description box below. But the reason we glue these pages together and add washi tape is to add some stability because those pages are really thin. And by gluing them together, you're adding a great space to use mixed media or even just glue heavier items on, or even just to write. It just creates a nicer workspace, in my opinion. So don't worry, I'm not going to make you watch me glue every single pair of pages together. I'm just going to do these 2, and I am going to show you how I very easily just add this washi tape. You get a large length of washi tape, you put it half on one side, and then you fold it over and seal it on the other side. Now, this step is very simple, but when you are doing it to an entire journal's worth of lined pages, it takes time. So be prepared for that. It does take a little bit longer than I thought it would initially. And now this is my third journal doing it. It does take a bit, so just be patient. You don't need to do it all at once. I am going to do it all at once so that I can show you what it looks like when it's done, but you could even do it as you go. I do like the way it looks when it's all done. So halfway on one side, halfway on the other, and then you trim off the tails. And you can be really creative with this process. My daughter made a journal like this, and hers was a very pink and red theme, so she used a lot of pink and red washi. I've seen creators use all rainbow washi tape. I don't have a particular vibe to this washi tape in any of mine. I kind of just use my favorite washi tapes, which I guess is a vibe, favorites. But you can be really creative with this. You could use all same washi tape. That would be kind of neat too. So you can get really creative. So I'm going to do the rest of this journal off camera so you don't have to watch the whole thing, but let me show you what it looks like when it's done. Okay, so it did take me about 30 minutes to complete, but I love the way it looks. I really love the way all those pages look. The pages are nice and strong, so I could use marker on them. I could even use paint if I wanted to. I could write, I can add, I can staple, and you have a very nice secure journal. And so you can't tell that those pages aren't rounded. They kind of just all blend in together now because of the washi tape. This next step is completely optional, and once again, 100% no sew. I am going to add some trim to some of these pages. You may not like the way this looks. You may be happy with the washi tape in the pages, at which point you are done. Yay, hooray for you. Or you can add some trim. Let me show you how I do that. The first one I'm going to start with is this fabric. It's just a scrap of fabric that I had in my scrappy bin, and it's a nice long strip. So I am going to trim that little piece off at the end, and then I'm going to use my stapler to put it on. I've shown this very simple technique in many journal with me's, but I will show it once again. You just staple it to the top, making sure that a little bit is hanging out and not too much, and make sure it's where you want it to be before you get too far down in staples. And you're going to fold it up about 1/2 inch, the fabric right on top of itself. You see me doing that. And then once you have that fold, you add another staple. Fold it up on top of itself about 1/2 inch and then staple. And you just do that all the way down the page. It creates a ruffle. It looks really cute. You can hardly see the staples. If the staples bother you, then I don't suggest doing this because you can see them. I actually use gold staples. I guess I feel like that fancies it up a little. But if you don't mind the staples, this is a really fun alternative to breaking out your sewing machine. Once you've gone all the way down the length of the page, or you could even just do a small part of the page. I do that sometimes too. You just give it a trim and you're all done. 100% no sew ruffle trim. How cute is that? So now I'm just going to add several more pieces. And again, just like those pages, you want to make sure that all of your trim is evenly distributed throughout the journal. So I'm just going to add some of this parchment paper once again. I have this scrap, this really pretty minty sort of green scrap. You could put it on the back if you want to, just see the puff balls. I just glue it right onto the front though. Once again, with our trusty fabric tack, never lets me down. I add a thin line of that fabric tack all the way down the length of the page or however long your puffball string is. And then once you have that line of glue down, you can add your puffball string and just press firmly. And then again, just let it dry for a few minutes before you move on to the next one. So how do we feel about the no-sew journals? I love making no-sew tutorials because I'm just not big on the sewing of it all. I can sew, I hand sew, I do have a sewing machine, but for me to keep things accessible and simple, I love a no-sew journal. So let me know what you think. I hope you're enjoying this tutorial, and we're almost done. This is coming out so much cuter than I even thought it would. I'm so excited. Okay, I'm impatient. I don't feel like letting it dry, so I'm just gonna leave that parchment paper on there and move to the next one. So I was trying to figure out where to put the next ruffle, and I ended up going way too far over. So we're going to end up adding little flowers to the middle too, but you'll see what I mean. So I picked this gold page. I thought that was a nice little contrast with that scrap of pink floral fabric. And I'm just going to add those ruffles, again, using my stapler. I still haven't gotten a new stapler. Many of you said to get the Tim Holtz Tiny Attacher. but I just haven't. And I'm a little hesitant. As much as I'm still going to buy it for paper, I use my stapler for kind of big, heavy duty jobs. And are those staples in the tiny attacher smaller? I don't think I want smaller staples. So if somebody has the Tim Holtz tiny attacher, and I know many of you do, let me know. Are those Tim Holtz staples smaller than the standard staples? Let me know, because I'm still going to get one, but I still need a new heavy duty stapler too. Oh, I think that looks so cute. And I think it adds such a nice little touch. See, I think I went over too far. But what we're going to do is we're going to add those peachy puff balls to the back. And then I'm going to go back and add some flower trim to the middle. So we're just going to add those puff balls in the same way that we added the minty ones. Easy peasy. We're just going to get out our trusty fabric tack again. And just add them right to that page. Look at the Care Bears. Isn't that cute? You guys, I love Care Bears. I love Strawberry Shortcake. I love Cabbage Patch Kids. I'm such an 80s kid. So let me know in the comments below if you plan on doing this tutorial. I would love to see it. This is my first time ever making one completely no-sew in this style, and I'm super happy with how it came out. If you have any questions, be sure to leave those below. I'd be happy to sort of troubleshoot with you or give you a little bit of guidance, since now I've made a completely no-sew journal. I do have a sew tutorial since I've made a few of those now. So if you would like a sewn version of this tutorial, let me know that as well, because I'd be happy to make mine. Like I said, I followed a general sort of guideline by Rebecca Hoot. She has an adorable tutorial, so if you just can't wait, be sure to hop over to her YouTube and watch her tutorial. But also let me know if you'd like one of mine here on my channel. Okay, so as you can see, I feel like there's a gap there. So that's when I go grab my a little strip of flower trim, and it's my favorite flower trim. If you are with me anywhere at all on any of my platforms, you know I use this flower trim in everything. I got it at Joann's. It was seasonal for like spring, and when they brought it out a few months ago, I bought every single one they had. So I think I have like 2 rolls left. But I love it. And you'll see, I don't think I've shown it yet. It is so cute. I've used it in many of my personal journals. I use it all the time. I use it in journals I've sent out. Look at how cute that is. It's just perfect. It just screams happy junk journal. So I'm going to trim that flower, and that is it, folks. Our completely no-sew upcycled composition book junk journal is done. What do you think? If you made it to the end of this very chatty tutorial, be sure to let me know. Thank you so much for watching. I'm just so excited with myself. I hope you guys really like this tutorial too, and it's something that's simple that you would be able to do. All of these products can be found at the Dollar Tree, any craft store, Joann's, Michael's, Walmart, and all of these books. Head to your local thrift store, Friends of the Library store, yard sale, look in your own attics, and make one of these, because they're really fun and you can be really creative. So let me know what you think. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope everyone has a really great week. Find some time to journal and to be creative. Thanks for watching. Bye.